Hello again, everybody. This is Mr. Everything, and I'm bringing you another episode of Wargaming in Miniature. Now, today I've got a special treat for you. What we're going to do is we're going to take my Robotech RPG Tactics models that I've have completed so far. I've got a lot more to go, but what I've completed so far, and what we're going to do is we're going to prime them. Okay, so we're going to use a Krylon flat black primer. Well, it's Cover Max, Color Master, Paint and Primer. I really like the Krylon because they have that fusion technology and fusion bonds with plastic very well. I use it especially on my soft plastics, but these are hard plastics, and so there should be no problem with paint adhering to them. But I want to go ahead and prime them black. You'll see that as when we do actually finally get into painting the models, you'll get to see exactly why I like black as my primer, and I'll explain that in the future. But right now, what I am going to do though is, now that these models are completely dry and ready for primer, I'm going to go over each of the models one at a time, and just with my X-Acto knife, and just touch up any places that I feel I might have missed with the initial trimming or flash cleaning. And I'm also going to see if there's any glue that needs to be removed, or basically just any imperfections. This is a last minute final check before we actually do any priming. So what I'm going to do is, like, my final check, and I'm going over blah 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 blah, going over it with a fine-tooth comb, just to make sure that I've got every little bit, every little imperfection is going to be fixed. Okay, it looks like there's a little bit of, no, that's smooth. Just because the plastic has an off color doesn't mean it wasn't smoothed out. What that means is, because sometimes when you're cutting the plastic or you're cleaning the flash lines, you'll still see a white, or the like this gold plastic will actually turn white, because I guess that's the color of the original plastic underneath, or it just becomes distressed, and when it becomes distressed it turns white, and that might be the case. Yeah, so those actually look pretty good. Continuing on. And once I get all these ready, then what we'll do is we'll move on to actually doing the priming. All right, those are all trimmed up. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and shake this up. We're going to shake this up. This is a new can, but usually it takes about a minute or two to shake it up. But in the meantime, I wanted to say something about spray priming. There's a couple of different philosophies. One is that you brush paint your black on. That way you just use like a regular old black model paint or whatever, and you paint it. And my philosophy is spray primer. The reason why I spray prime, it's faster. That's the main reason. And there's the bead. All right. So now, when it comes to spray priming, I know I'm jumping around, and I'm thinking my thought. This isn't scripted, so this is just all off the top of my head. But now, there's a couple of things that I pay attention to when I spray prime. One of them is you don't want to spray too thick, because if you spray too thick, you start to get runny primer. It clumps up, it drips, and you don't get any. It ruins the model. So you got to be very gentle with the light coats. Light coats dry faster for one reason. They don't it doesn't clump up. There are no runs, and And if you do 2 or 3 light coats, you're going to have a completely covered model. Now the problem with models that are on bases like this, and that you have them standing up like this, is that you're spraying usually down at an angle at all these models. And that leaves the underside of the model, you know, the underarms and in the groin and stuff like that, those areas tend to not get any paint on them. So what I plan to do is do my down angles on the entire thing, and I usually spray from 4 different angles, you know, north, south, east, and west of each model. And then what I try to do is get low, like low to the board, and spray up. And I try to spray up. And that covers 99% of the model. But then when I go to actually do the painting of my model, when I'm actually applying the paint on the model for its final appearance, the first color I will use is black again, and I will go around the model and see if there is any gaps or holes or spots I might have missed, and then I'll touch it up with black. And that seems to work very well for me. And black is a great primer for metallics. If you're ever going to paint anything with a metallic paint, be sure to paint it black first, because metallic has a tendency to look better and stick better to black as opposed to white. White, gray, and black are the main primary primer colors for miniatures, but I go black. I used to go white thinking that it was going to bring out the brightness of my paints and stuff like that, and that was over 10 years ago, because the technology in my paints, the paints that I use, have such a strong pigment that I don't need to worry about that. I use a lot of Vallejo paints, but I have used Citadel and P3, you know. So I've used quite a few different, and I even use the what do they call it? Like the hobby paints that you find at your local arts and crafts store. I've used those too. But I use acrylics. I use water-based paints. I don't use the enamels. No more thinner for me, baby. All right. So once I get this bottle shook up to my liking, what we're going to do is we're going to step outside, and it is freezing outside, so we're not going to be out there long, and I don't know if my camera is going to hold up. All right, so we'll see you out there in just a second. All right, we're outside. Now there is a couple of things you got to be careful with. I've noticed that today it's very windy, so there's going to be a lot of wind blowing the model. As you can see, my clothes moving around, and these models are very light, and so even the it's very windy. Even the pressure from the spray can will actually blow the models around. So what I'm going to do is spray between gusts of wind. There we go. My hand is probably getting sprayed a little bit. Okay, we're going to turn, because that was a heavy enough coat. Let this next gust of wind go. And then spray. Maybe I can take this to a less windy area. Damn. Come on, wind. We got a little reprieve right here. Take advantage of it. Okay, now we're looking from the low angle, seeing if we need to spray up a little bit. And we're also trying to spray with the wind, so our spray paint is not trying to fight against the wind, it's actually flying with the wind. I think we've got it. Alright, so we're going to carry these inside, then I'll show you what they look like when they dry. Alright guys, well I've sprayed them. I did the four corner spray, let it dry a little bit. Then I laid them down and I painted under their underbelly. You know, so you would get like a spray down inside there like that. And I also did the back spray like this. So we actually got, now I've let them dry. So I just wanted to kind of slowly review each model so that you can kind of see what the primer has done for us. Because as you remember, as I was building these models, I was ensuring that I was scraping off all of the highlights, or what am I saying, highlights? I was scraping off all of the flash and sprue lines and stuff like that. So you'll notice that the black primer actually causes any imperfections to kind of disappear. And I wanted to give you guys like a close-up. Now this is just the primer now. Remember, these are not painted. That was the Glog. That's like the Recon Pod, right? Do you see any super glue lines? Do you see any sprue lines, cut lines? No, you don't see that. The paint covers it up. Yes, you can see it when you scrape, because when you scrape, it has a tendency to, what's the word I'm looking for? When you scrape, it has a tendency to discolor the plastic, but it's not ruining the plastic at all. And you get like the perfect model, man. That's just, I just wanted you to all have a chance to see what I'm seeing here. Especially on the legs. You know how the legs are usually in like two pieces where they're split? I wanted you to kind of see that you don't really see that. And then also, it's not, and I'm not done. You still have to actually paint the models. Once I do that, all those lines are going to just disappear or become so unnoticeable that it's just hard to see anything, right? Okay. Now where did this one have the sprue lines? Oh yeah, right down the center nose line. And I don't see it. Come on, focus. Even on this one had, it is completely gone right down those center lines. Okay. Another reason why I use flat is because your paints, your acrylic paints, are going to stick to a flat base coat better than it would a gloss. There's nothing wrong with gloss. finished product. Nothing wrong with gloss. I just like flat. I like it to look more photorealistic, I guess is the word I'm looking for. I want it to kind of look like it probably would look on the tabletop. One advantage of having a gloss coat, like spray painting it later with a gloss coat, what it does is not only does it seal the paint, but it'll allow you to manhandle the paint, and it will also protect your paint job. But what I used to do is take my paints and paint the figures, of course, and then once that dries, go over it with like a lacquer, a clear gloss or semi-gloss lacquer, polyurethane, and then when that's done drying, then I would spray it with my dull coat, so that, because the gloss actually protects your paint job, where any dull coats that you put on does not protect your paint job. It just makes it look better. So don't use dull coat as your paint sealer, because that's not going to do anything for you. Alright, well, thanks for coming out and checking out this simple, quick episode of Wargaming Miniatures. I'm not going to actually dive into painting these models until I probably get them all put together and assembled. If you've been following along, I've only got like 3 more Zentradi models to put together. Well, that's not true. 3 more types of models to put together. I've got the artillery pods, the actual battle pods themselves, which I've got 24 of those to assemble, and the recovery pods. I've got 2 of those. And then with the Vertex, I've got 9 Valkyries to put together, but that's not just Valkyries, because you got to put the Guardian mode and the Battleoid mode together. So I've got like 27 Valkyries I've got to put together, and 24 battle pods to put together. So it's going to be a while. So, but come back each Wednesday or whenever I upload these, so that you can see my progress with the models as I go. Hopefully I'll get all these done by middle of December maybe, where I can maybe go conduct some demos or something like that. Alright, well, you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you on the next one.